Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. It's that time of the year again where we begin to look at lists and determine the successes and the failures of the last 12 months. Now, as many of you know, I'm a big fan of Storyblocks as it enables me to get my hands on royalty-free, cliche-free stock footage. And essentially, Storyblocks allows any creative to get their hands on audio, images, or videos for their own content creation. So as someone that creates podcasts, videos, and written articles, it's invaluable. Although I must admit I've not checked out the image section, so I do need to look at that. So I invited TJ Leonard back onto the show today from Storyblocks to once again talk about the creative trends and how they're going to shape 2019. And this year they've analysed 85 million searches to determine the fastest growing trends used in creative work. All based on their own data, they have a list of content trends that are set to rule 2019. I always look forward to chatting with TJ each year, so let's find out more. I hope you'll join me. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to New York so we can once again join TJ Leonard, who will tell us all about the Storyblocks 2019 Trends Guide. Well, a massive warm welcome back to the show, TJ. But for anyone that has missed our previous chats, can you just tell them a little about Storyblocks and your role over there?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Neil. It is wonderful to be back as always. It's becoming a holiday tradition, and we're always happy to join. But yeah, I'm the CEO at Storyblocks. We are a different kind of stock media company, one that's built really from the ground up to power this new generation of digital storytellers. So a lot of folks probably know the old traditional stock industry. It's an industry that was built to service large institutions with deep pockets, lots of lawyers on staff. And, you know, over time, and something we've realized is the world has changed. It's not controversial or even interesting anymore to say that everyone is creating and consuming digital content. And as we saw this rise of a new creative generation, we call them the mass creative class. It's freelancers, it's small studios, SMBs, marketers. We realize that they're producing more and more shorter form content and incredible volumes. They want to be able to experiment freely. They're budget conscious, but unwilling to sacrifice on their vision. And perhaps mercifully for all of us, there are generally very few lawyers that work with these creators. So, you know, we said, hey, there's no good content platform built for this audience. Let's go do it. And so we went out and we started with what is still a unique model. We have a subscription that's paired with unlimited use. We're always adding new content. It is the exact same video from the exact same contributors you would get from a competitor, except you're getting it for a fraction of the price with much simpler and more expansive rights. So really our mission, our reason for being is to help all creators kind of level up their creative game and to make sure that, you know, things like budget and sophistication never put a limit on someone's creative vision.
So what was it that made you want to analyse 85 million searches from this year to determine the fastest growing trends used in creative work? And how difficult was that to trawl through 85 million searches?
I know. Mercifully, we have an incredibly sharp team over here. And so no one asked me to analyze a single search. So we left it in the hands of the experts. But again, going back to sort of a reason for being, you know, we believe it's our job to help creative punch above their weight and to simplify the creative process. And of course, this unique fixed subscription plus unlimited download model, one of the benefits is it throws off a ton of data. So we distribute more video in a month than the next largest distributor does in a year. And so as a result, we're able to spot trends in real time. And so what we want to do, and we've started to do this every year now, is we want to sort of plumb the depths of our data. We want to pull out what we think are really important, relevant, forward-looking insights, and we want to give those back to the creative community so that our contributors can earn more in the year ahead, so that our members can deliver a more relevant and impactful finished product.
So from fake news to the lack of diversity in the media, the report really seems to confirm that the creative community is just hungry for more authenticity and inclusivity. I mean, does that surprise you at all?
It does and it doesn't. I remember we talked about this back in 2016 was when this trend really first started to emerge. I think the surprising thing is, whereas most, like all trends, things tend to have a shelf life. But what we're seeing with this particular trend is it's actually picking up momentum as we go through time. And I think a big reason why, Neil, you cited it, is it's in response to the current news cycle, whether it's fake news, the political discourse, whether it's in the UK or the US. It's divisive. And what we're seeing is the creative community stand up and saying, like, whoa, this does not represent. And so they're actively seeking content that they feel better represents their view of the world around them. And so broadly, searches for diversity are up more than 30% year over year. But we're also seeing big increases in nationalities and minorities, whether it's African up nearly 200% year over year, elderly searches up more than 100% year over year. It extends all the way to Islamic and Asian. Then again, these are trends that are starting to be reflected in major motion pictures too. You look at some of the biggest blockbusters from this year, Black Panther, Crazy Rich Asians. Like these are big budget movies that would have been hard to see them get made 5-10 years ago. But again, riding this wave of authenticity, of diversity and inclusivity, they've been huge successes.
And the scary thing is, of course, as we talk to each other each year and these years are flying by, I think I'm going to turn up on one of your elderly lists at some point.
That's a good life goal, to avoid that list for as long as possible. But yes.
So as digital media continues to make the world a smaller place, how are you seeing it altering what the creative community is searching for, whether it be in video, audio and images?
Yeah, so there's a few kind of mega trends that we're watching. We just talked about diversity and inclusion. Yeah. There's this big move toward time-saving tools and templates. We're seeing the rise of independent news that's surfacing in our data. There's also interesting evidence that the preferred channels for distributing content is changing, in addition to the types of the content itself. That this notion of art imitating life is as old as storytelling itself. But I think what we're seeing is brands in particular are looking to new ways to distribute this authentic and inclusive content, the sort of traditional tools. Nobody is fooled by a Facebook ad any longer. So people are looking to, again, independent news. They're looking to influencers. They're looking to, again, authentic spokespeople to deliver their message that mirrors the type of content they're starting to create now. So that's one really interesting thing we're seeing. Again, it's not just the composition of the content that's changing. People, brands, businesses are pairing the distribution strategy with the same trends that they're seeing in content.
I'm glad you mentioned independent news there, because there does seem to be a growing mistrust of traditional media. But, I mean, looking at the report, can you tell me a little bit more about how your creators are increasingly searching for things like templates and audio to aid them in reporting on the news in their own terms, rather than relying on those traditional methods?
Yeah, you know what? They're very much wrapped up together. And again, if you think about the media cycle in general, whether it's cable news or a YouTube channel or a podcast, right? Generally, people are distributing higher volumes of shorter form content, and that is putting a ton of pressure on creative cycles. So at the same time, you're seeing people who are unwilling to sacrifice on the vision and quality of their work despite shorter timelines and limited budgets. And so one way this trend is playing out is in big increases in usage of templates in general. So whether that's After Effects, lower thirds, promos, all of these different types of contents experienced big year-over-year growth, whether that's ranging from 30% to 150% in some cases. And again, we think this ties back to what you mentioned, as more and more people come online and looking for independent, trustworthy sources of media, you're seeing these techniques getting picked up to, again, simplify and shorten production cycles.
Now, there's always something going on in the world now, and it's up to creatives to tell that story. So what are the big stories that they've been covering this year, according to your report?
Yeah, so definitely saw some big stories. The Facebook, Cambridge Analytica debacle. We saw searches for Facebook, for example, increase 60% year over year. The Kavanaugh confirmation, we saw searches for legal and trial-related terms spike more than 700% during the confirmation hearings. Wildfires, hurricanes, extreme weather searches experiencing big increases year over year, more than 70%. And to compare that to the election here, which in the United States is always a major media event, and this particular midterm was a closely watched one, election searches only up about 25%. So when you compare that to some of these other news events, you can really see what captured and sustained the attention of the public. But kind of the cool other trend here is that the feedback loop between what's happening in mainstream media and pop culture and what's happening within the creative content world, that loop is shortening. So whereas, these trends would play out over days or weeks or even months, we're seeing almost real-time pops in demand for certain types of content as the news cycle changes around them.
So if we have a blogger, vlogger or podcaster listening, can you tell me the kind of content and templates that they're coming to you for? Because it is scattered across different packages that you've got, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And, I think what we're seeing, especially for bloggers, podcasters, this group is really where a lot of younger consumers are starting to go for their independent news. We mentioned this earlier, but YouTube, SoundCloud, Medium, these are not just entertainment platforms anymore. They're turning into independent news platforms. And, we're seeing as a result, a lot of these bloggers, a lot of these podcasters, they're turning to the same tricks and techniques that the broadcast industry has depended on for years to create this kind of cable-ready production feel online. So things like news intros, up nearly 150% year over year. News backgrounds, more than 200% year over year. Virtual studios. So there's this whole DIY digital production movement that's happening as more and more younger consumers are looking for independent news outlets. Really interesting. And we're seeing similarly kind of visual effects, which is something that kind of waxes and wanes in interest, pop as well. So whether that's a search for a transition or a smoke effect or a fire effect, right? All of these little tips and tricks, again, that broadcast has depended on for a long time to level up their production value. We're now seeing that come through into these digital creators.
Now, I'd imagine that some people listening will want audio footage, others want video, and others just images. Equally, there's going to be some people that are jack of all trades, want to dip their toes in, or want access to all of your platforms with a Netflix-style kind of package. So how do you meet these demands and ensure that you get the right membership packages for everyone?
Yeah, so, for us, we try to do our very best to listen to our customers. And I think you're exactly right, Neil. There are, especially newer creators, who are, that's one of the benefits of our product and our platform is we have a lot of first-time stock buyers who start with us. They experiment with us. And so we always want to provide a single library options, whether that's just video, just audio, just images, to help them get started as quickly as possible. But what we see is over time, as people get more comfortable, as they start to see the value in the content, more and more people are moving to bundles there who are bundling all three together. Again, 10, 15 years ago, you had creatives who identified as I'm a video person, or I'm an image, or I'm a print person. And that paradigm doesn't exist in the digital world, right? We're here to produce a 15-second pre-roll or a 30-second feature animation video. And as a result, more and more productions are actually including all three content types. And of course, we set that up in a way that helps our customers save even more money. And we see the highest engagement on our platform coming through these bundled packages. And, we try to do our part as well. It's been a big push this year. As people are creating more and more content, the need for our library to be more diverse, to have more depth, to have more quality is really important. And so we actually just last week doubled the size of our video library. It's now 4 times bigger than it was at the start of the year. We've doubled the size of our audio library. And so that's something that's really exciting from our perspective. As we see adoption grow, we're able to plow that back into our library to ensure we're continually delivering value for our customers.
So what's next for Storyblocks? I mean, where are you going to take it from here, especially now you've got this valuable information and trends for next year for creatives? Yeah, no, I think, again, for us, from the day we started until whatever day this journey ends in the future, we're going to be laser focused on the mass creative class. We start with our customer needs and we follow it wherever it takes us. And so, this year we've started to realize that, hey, a marketer, a freelancer, they think about the creative workflow differently than a traditional stock buyer. They're not necessarily going to leave their workflow to come find content. So we built an API to bring our content and our library to our customers wherever the creative process unfolds. We realized that even within big organizations, there are smaller teams who are budget conscious, who are unwilling to sacrifice on their vision. So we built a Teams product to help with administrative and workflow tools in addition to content. So I think that's really for us. The big charge going forward is, hey, allow our library to be delivered wherever the creative process unfolds. If that's on our site, great. If it's in a partner's product, great. If that's as part of a team within a larger organization, great. And in parallel, we want to make sure that we're simplifying the creative process and, again, continuing to up our game as it relates to the selection and quality of our library. So if we do have anyone listening that are looking for either audio or visual stock footage, what's the best way of finding out more information and looking into and getting more information on the different packages that you offer, and also keeping up to speed with developments on the whole of Storyblocks for the rest of the year? Yeah, no. Visiting www.storyblocks.com. That's STORYBLOCKS.com. That's the best place to go. All of our new content is added there. We make sure that we showcase the new stuff. It's included for our members. They don't have to pay more as we add more and more content. And if there's anyone out there who leads a team or who's interested in our API to pipe our library into their own native product experience, you can go to enterprise.storyblocks.com and you'll be able to find all the information you need, as well as who to reach out to you for any questions you might have. Fantastic. Now, as someone that writes a lot of tech articles for a lot of different publications, one of the things that really annoys me is we've got a lot of big buzzwords out there, such as artificial intelligence and blockchain. But for what I've searched for on other platforms, I'm sure there's about 8 stock images for artificial intelligence, and they're all exactly the same, and every writer's using them. So I will be checking out Storyblocks on the images there just to freshen things up a little bit. But like you said, nobody is just a print guy, an image guy, an audio guy, or a video person. People want a bit of everything now, and essentially everyone's a creative, and you're enabling that as well. So a big thank you for coming on, and I'll join you again next year, and we'll look at the 2020 trends. That's scary, isn't it? It is. It's terrifying, Neil. But I'll make you the promise now. Let's decide not to age another year to keep ourselves off that elderly list for at least one more turn around the sun. Absolutely. As long as we don't go out there and try and chop each other's heads off Highlander style, I think we'll be okay. Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Neil. It's always wonderful to come on. Always great to talk to you. Again, as we've talked over the years, it's obvious you understand this world, and so it's fun. It feels like a casual conversation between friends here. So thanks for having us on. I think it's fascinating how art imitates life, especially in the creative industry this year, where major news events like the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal saw searches for Facebook go up 60%, and the Kavanaugh confirmation trial increased creative searches by 735%. It's almost as if the news impacts our searches for creative content almost instantaneously, and that is quite revealing on its own. And unsurprisingly, it's also great to see a huge push towards authenticity and inclusivity within the creative community. And of course, authenticity is a trend that will continue to rise in 2019 and beyond. And now that we're all creatives, time-saving tools and new content types are just a couple of ways that storytellers are looking for support as they see that huge uptick in shorter form projects. Whether it be resources shifting towards bite-sized content, essentially it places an even greater emphasis on affordability and efficiency. So I'll put a link to the full report in the blog post accompanying this podcast episode. So check it out and let me know your thoughts by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com or tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes with your thoughts and your predictions for the next 12 months and how technology is going to affect the creative industry. So a big thank you for joining me on this annual catch-up, and I hope we can speak with him again next year. But more than anything, just a big thank you for tuning into this show each and every day and allowing me to accompany you on your daily grind. Let's do it all again tomorrow. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.